What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. We got some crazy stuff going on here. Former President Donald Trump could become Speaker of the House now that Kevin McCarthy has been ousted. That's right. I'll give you the details of that here in this video. This is correct. However, there is a rule. It is Rule 26 that could prevent him possibly from becoming speaker, and I will give you the details of that in this video. As well as President Biden cancels $9 billion in student debt for 125,000 borrowers, which is sure to make Republicans absolutely furious, as Republicans want to cut from the federal deficit. And you got President Biden doing things like this, which is absolutely going to infuriate Republicans. Yeah, so let's jump right in. As yeah, so the Republicans have kicked out Kevin McCarthy. They are so divided right now, and the front runners, Republicans are saying, are possibilities of Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, and former President Donald Trump in the mix. Jim Jordan actually just gave a pretty riveting speech before they kicked out Kevin McCarthy, saying that Kevin McCarthy did everything that the Republicans should have done. And, they passed what they could in the House, and the Democrats wouldn't pass in the Senate. And the thing is that if the Republicans go hardball, it won't pass in the Senate because, again, for things to pass, you have to go with compromise to get things passed in the House and the Senate, unless they go with the burn it down philosophy, which some people are talking about. I covered that in one of my previous videos, which could be a tremendously long potential government shutdown or something along those lines, where Republicans say, listen, we're going to play hardball. We're not going to negotiate at all. We want massive cuts to things like SNAP, food stamps, aid across the board, student forgiveness, student aid forgiveness, all sorts of things like that. And remember that Ukraine aid, where they send out weapons and tanks and aircraft, that all that gets approved by Congress. Okay, that's a misconception. You hear things like Biden keeps sending all our money to Ukraine. All that gets approved by Republicans and Democrats before anything gets sent over there. So just remember that Republicans have approved all of that weaponry and stuff that goes over there. So just remember that, okay? So when you hear anybody talk about that, whether it's Trump or, just, a pro-Russian YouTube channel or something like that, the Republicans have approved all that has gone over there. And mostly it's, most of the stuff that goes over there is reserve, uh, U.S. military equipment. Okay. Um, so just keep that in mind. However, the U.S. is running low on this stuff, and they need to be producing more double time. Also, remember that almost every country in Europe is also sending stuff to Ukraine to literally prevent Hitler from trying to take over country after country after country and put back the old USSR. In fact, if you watch one of my previous videos, they actually said this on Russian state TV, that they want to put back the old USSR, which consists of like 15 different countries. So they've taken over Crimea. They've leaked plans to take over Moldova next. So this is not the only country, Ukraine, that they want to take over. They want to take over Moldova. They want to take over Belarus. They've already taken over Ukraine. Not quite Ukraine yet, but they've already taken over Crimea. And this is probably not the end, even if there were to be a peace agreement with Ukraine. Yeah, so you guys can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Very similar to what Hitler did in World War II. He took over country after country after country after country. for whatever reason, he thought he had the right to. Even after peace agreements, he continued to take over. Remember the peace agreement in 2014, okay, over with Crimea. Now he's taking over more countries, okay, Putin. So you guys can let me know your thoughts on this. There's also, there's people saying, that if the U.S. didn't send money to Ukraine, remember that most of the stuff that goes over there is military equipment, okay, that the U.S. would take care of their own here. But remember, it's apples to oranges, because it's not like they're going to send out another stimulus check if they don't send out military equipment to Ukraine, because they're not. Because remember, Republicans want to cut right now. And this is just the reality of things. In fact, one of the main reasons that Republicans ousted Kevin McCarthy right now is that he even was brought to the table the 45-day continuing resolution to prevent a government shutdown. And this is why only 8 Republicans voted with all of the Democrats to vote him out. It's ironic that he got voted out. The 8 Republicans that voted with the Democrats, they actually sided with the Democrats, these 8 Republicans that voted him out, led by Matt Gaetz, were really voted with Democrats. They actually voted against their own party, siding with Democrats, okay? For the first time ever to oust a speaker. So you guys can let me know your thoughts on all this. This just shows how divided everything is right now. And when you have Biden talking about, or he just did, cancel $9 billion more in student loan debt for 125,000 borrowers. This is just going to absolutely send the Republicans into a fit of fury. Absolutely, they're just going to lose their mind. Yeah, President Joe Biden announced here on Wednesday that he approved $9 billion in student loan forgiveness for 125,000 Americans. The relief is a result of an administration's fixes to a number of programs, including the income-driven repayment plans and public service loan forgiveness. More than $5 billion of aid will go to 53,000 borrowers who have worked in public service for a decade or more. $2.8 billion of forgiveness is for 51,000 borrowers who enrolled in income-driven repayment plans. And another $1.2 billion of the cancellation will go to 22,000 borrowers with disabilities. So you guys can let me know your thoughts on this here in the comments section. The announcement is likely to help Biden as he runs for re-election. Some people say Biden has forgiven more student loan debt than any previous president. It distinguishes him from other candidates who are campaigning for the nation's highest office. That's a quote. If the Department of Education can cancel this amount, it can cancel it all, meeting and exceeding the president's commitment to borrowers currently being crushed by the chaotic return for payment. This is different than what the Supreme Court struck down, because this is public service. This is for people with public service and disabilities. Yeah, so, I mean, you can look up more of the details if you want to. With the House Speaker battle here, Rule 26 is trending amid talks of Trump as the next speaker. Technically, the Republicans could vote in somebody who's not in Congress as a speaker, which might surprise a lot of people. Rule 26 is trending. You might be thinking, what the heck is Rule 26? Yeah, it's something nobody's ever heard of, probably until today. A handful of Republicans have floated the possibility of electing former President Donald Trump as the next speaker. You would be the next speaker until the next election cycle is over. Because remember, when the next election, people in the House only serve 2-year terms. So theoretically, if he was booked or elected as the next president, that term would kind of end when he was elected as the next president, if he was elected as the next president. So it would kind of end at the same time. But may not be possible under current GOP House conference rules. Rule 26 started trending on X, previously known as Twitter. That name change is ridiculous. Shortly after Republicans started talking about backing Trump to replace former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who was just ousted. Many users pointed out that since the former president is under numerous felony indictments, he may not be able to serve in Republican leadership based on this rule. While the House Speaker is not required to be a sitting member of Congress, which is astounding to me, to be honest, that alone, you could be the House Speaker but not be a member of Congress. It is still highly unlikely that Trump could garner enough House Republican votes to actually become Speaker. We will see. Rule 26 is included in the House Republican Conference rules of the 118th Congress, which was approved in January. It states that a member of the Republican leadership shall step aside if indicted for a felony for which a sentence of 2 or more years of imprisonment may be imposed. Now, note here that it says that if they're just indicted for a felony for which a sentence of 2 or more years of imprisonment may be imposed. It doesn't say that they have to be convicted of, if I'm reading this correctly, and you can read it here with me too. It just says that if they're indicted for a felony for which a sentence of 2 or more years of imprisonment may be imposed. You guys can read it here with me as well. According to rule number 2, the Speaker is included in the definition of leadership alongside the Republican leader, the Republican whip, chair of the Republican conference, chair of the National Republican Congressional Committee, chair of the Committee on the Policy, the vice chair of the Republican Conference, and the secretary of the Republican Conference, but not the president. Why does some say Trump can't be Speaker under the current rule? The current rule suggests that Trump could not hold a role in Republican leaders, including the Speaker, since he has been indicted on numerous felony charges that carry at least 2 years of imprisonment sentences, as we just kind of read that. The former president is facing a total of 91 criminal charges spread among 4 states and federal criminal indictments. Separately, he is also a party in more than half a dozen criminal lawsuits. It is not clear this rule would prevent members from simply nominating him for the role. The GOP conference is slated to meet next week to determine who should hold the gavel next. Now, Republicans can actually just vote to change this, which is rare that they would do so in the middle of a session, but they can they can simply vote to change their own rules. You guys can let me know your thoughts on this. Yeah, so I will keep you up to date. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Do you think Trump should be Speaker? Do you think he will be Speaker? Yeah, and again, this would go up until the next election, or the election is over, actually, until the next Congress comes into session, which basically goes up until the next presidency, per se. So, yeah, I'll keep you up to date here. Make sure to subscribe down below. Click the bell icon if you haven't yet. Thanks for liking and sharing these videos here as well. Also, what did you think of the emergency alert today? Yeah, that was crazy loud, to say the least. Yeah, so I'll keep you up to date here. But yeah. Also, for those asking about my wife, she's in a lot of pain. She's in a lot of post-op pain. It hasn't gotten any better. So we will see. The doctor said she could be in pain for a week. It's going to be longer than that for sure. So Click here to see what was unexpected and just happened here in the US, or click here to see my newest video next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.